Dr. Jonathan Tripp. Dr. Jonathan Tripp joining us in studio this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. He is here from Tripp Family Medicine here in Twin Falls, back down Fillmore Street, directly across from the main post office. I'm going to call it 8:34:48 at our studios. Bill Colley with you on Top Story as well, News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. First of all, good morning.
Good morning.
We were just talking off air a bit about the topic, silent killers. And I was sharing with you that it's unfortunately, I know a friend of mine I worked with many years ago who, to look at the guy, if I had seen him just a year ago on the street, I would have thought he's the picture of health. He constantly was exercising, ate well, didn't smoke, didn't drink, and he's in hospice care right now.
Wow.
With lymphoma, and I guess barring some sort of miracle, he may not come out. And you were talking about the fact that a lot of people you could see walking down the street look just great.
Yeah.
But they've got some serious issues they don't even know that they have.
No, in fact, that's the bad news or the fun of this topic, and that is silent killers are what they are, and that is they often have no symptoms until it's kind of too late. And so in medicine in general, especially preventative medicine, primary care in particular, we're looking to find things, screen for things before they become irreversible. And so there's a lot of topics that we're going to, or different diseases that we'll touch on, but I wanted to give a quick example of how things often, you have symptoms that you kind of worked into slowly over time and have gotten used to and chalk up to, well, just the way I am, or, I have bad ankles. Well, maybe you don't really have bad ankles. That's not a killer, but you might find out, hey, we can fix that. And now all of a sudden you can get back into activities that you didn't do before. But a lot of people will have shortness of breath, or they'll have just fatigue that they can't explain and chalk it up to, well, that's just the way I am, and it's been this way, progressively over months or years. And I'll give you a quick example. Fun story about a lady in my first practice in Texas. Comes in with a rash on her foot and ankle, which turns out to be run-of-the-mill athlete's foot. But while I'm there, I listened to her heart and lungs, and we didn't even talk about that she'd been short of breath. I didn't even know it. She was truly there just for this rash. And so listening to her heart, I realized she's got an irregular rhythm. So I asked her if she's aware of that, and her response is, no, that's news. And so we go ahead and do a kind of a workup and end up putting her on some medicine for a condition called atrial fibrillation. And within about 2 weeks, she is doing things that I didn't know she couldn't do, like making her bed. Walking from her car in the parking lot into my office made her terribly short of breath. She says, it doesn't give me any shortness of breath now. And she was doing activities that she hadn't done in years. So she's been running around probably several years with a life-threatening condition that just because I listened to her heart, she thought I was, next to deity in my ability to diagnose, but all I did was very common medicine. So looking is half of this battle. And so let me just name some of the things that we call silent killers that right off the top, things that don't have symptoms usually, high blood pressure or even diabetes. These are chronic diseases. Heart disease. First symptom for 1/3 of the people with heart disease is sudden death. So screening for heart disease, watching cholesterol, watching your weight, we've all heard these things. But the truth is when you think 1/3 of the people, their first symptom is, I'm dead. That's not a very good outcome.
Not at all. Not much time for recovery.
So these are a couple of those diseases. And I think if we have listeners that have questions, I'd be happy to answer some of those. Cancers are a big deal. We've sure had a rough couple of weeks at our office. Thanks to a very caring staff, we've taken care of several people that are newly diagnosed with cancers that are, all cancer is somewhat life-threatening, but these were big and they were serious and life-changing, or we've had others that we've put into hospice because of chronic lung disease, thanks to smoking. There's a silent killer, self-induced. So there's lots of things that just seeing the doctor, doing what we used to always talk about, a checkup, will allow us to identify some causes and some either habits or things that we do that we can change and totally change the outcome. Sometimes we can't, but a lot of times it's a matter of just looking.
We've got more coming up in just a few minutes. Short break on the way. But Dr. Jonathan Tripp is in studio with us until 9 o'clock this morning. For people who'd like to contact you by web or Facebook, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, our website is trippfamilymedicine.com. So that's all one word, easy to find. Our Facebook, again, is Tripp Family Medicine. And we'd welcome comments there, or especially likes.
Yes.
Dislikes we don't allow. And then our phone number at our office is 208-933-4400.
More on the way with the doctor in just a couple of minutes.
Thanks.
And your telephone calls as well. If you're inclined, you got a question or comment for the doctor this morning, he can help you out. 736-0300 in just a few minutes. Yeah, we have a guest in studio with us. Doctor, I have no control over the music.
All right.
So,
well, I'll talk right through it. This sounds kind of like Twilight Zone music. So
it's pretty, yeah.
A little deja vu. Maybe.
We want something a little more upbeat. That's what we want.
That'll be fun. Hey, we were talking about silent killers, and one of the things is sleep apnea. And I have a kind of a fun story there with my own family. My father, who, as a kid, even a teenager, I just thought, that's what old 35, 40-year-old guys do, and that is, he'd drive, if it was 2 to 3 in the afternoon, he could tell you that even if it was a half-hour drive somewhere, he'd need to pull over and sleep for 10 minutes partway through. And so that was evidence that he's not getting good sleep at night. And, sometimes, usually the person with sleep apnea doesn't know they have it. They don't even know they snore, and they don't always snore. And my dad's case must have been pretty severe because, he could sit in a chair, especially if it was evening, have people visiting, be talking, and kind of mid-sentence fall asleep right in front of him. And, it was embarrassing to my mom, but, we just thought, as a 15-year-old, you thought, he's just an old man. He's 40 years old. So now 40 years old isn't quite so old. But the truth is sleep apnea sneaks up on you. It increases risk for heart disease and strokes. Definitely fatigue is a big part of it. We have one example of a gentleman came into us about a year ago that he had terrible swelling all over his body, looked like fulminant, what's called heart failure, which is a backup of the fluid into your legs and your lungs, was hospitalized and found his heart was failing, but there was no heart disease. There was no real lung disease. It was all a result of sleep apnea, and within about 6 weeks of being on the treatment for sleep apnea, CPAP, he was completely recovered and taken off all the medicines that the cardiologist started him on for heart failure. So I'm not saying that his body is perfect, because he went to the near death stage over what was otherwise a silent killer. I want to also bring up another story. This is this morning. I'm in the shower getting ready, for the day. And very quietly, I have a silent killer walk in the room and throw cold water on me over the shower curtain. That would be my 13-year-old son. So silent killers come in all forms.
Actually, there was a story when I was a kid my parents shared with me. We had a neighbor who lived at the top of the mountain, and his brother had been cutting hay with him one day on a very hot summer day. And when he finished, he raced over and dove into a pond and died because of the pond was still chilly.
Wow.
And just that change in temperature was just a shock, I guess.
Better not tell the Scandinavians that, because they go straight from the sauna into the cold pool. And I suppose I got to believe that young man had some underlying heart condition. I doubt it was just the cold.
And it could have been just the catalyst.
Yeah.
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 If you have a question or comment for the doctor this morning, he's in studio with us for another 15 minutes or so. Coming up on 8:46, it is 49 at our studios. This is News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Top story with Bill Colley. And Better Health this morning with Dr. Jonathan Tripp. And the telephone number is 736-0300. 736-0300.
Let's talk a little bit about specific diseases. The ones that are very common, hypertension, diabetes, those are ones that frequently we don't know unless we look. But blood pressure rarely has a symptom. When someone has a symptom like a headache, I even had a gentleman that said he could tell because his ears felt like they were burning. And I thought, isn't that when somebody talks about you? But he actually could feel when his blood pressure was up just by how his ears felt. Now, I sure haven't read that in any textbook, but most people have no understanding that their blood pressure has changed at all. So it's a hard one to treat, to convince somebody you need to be on medication because your number is up. It really is following numbers, but those numbers correlate to uh, pushing your heart, pushing your kidneys, even your eyes. The various organs are under pressure all the time, and that means they deteriorate faster. So things fail, and big things fail, like your brain and your heart, and so blood pressure is one of those.
We have a caller with us, and you're on the air with Dr. Jonathan Tripp, and your question for the doctor.
Well, I've got a slight case of diabetes, not real bad, but type 2. And when are they going to find a cure for this thing? Or is it damage that's already been done that you can't fix?
Wow, that's a great question. To really answer what you've said about when are they going to find a cure, I don't have that answer at all. I can tell you that there are newer medicines that honestly are expensive, but over the last couple of years, we've had some really nice changes to diabetes care. Whereas in the past, well, let me first go back. Diabetes is for what's called type 2, or usually what we talk about adult onset, is a failing or a wearing out of certain types of cells in the pancreas called beta cells. And these cells produce insulin, and sometimes they produce great amounts of insulin, but the rest of your body becomes resistant to the insulin. So often we talk about insulin resistant diabetes or type 2 diabetes. And so that change, we've even tried pancreatic transplants, which for some people have worked, but that's not a real cost-effective or perfect answer. But what we're finding is rather than just simply either increasing the amount of insulin by way of injecting insulin or by trying to drop the blood sugar through the older drugs that cause a lot of low blood sugar problems, there's some more sophisticated approach to this. There's an enzyme, a protein, but an enzyme in your body called GLP-1 that has a lot to do with how your body responds to when you eat and the blood sugars go up, and whether the insulin is received well by the other cells, because the cells require insulin to get sugar into the cells so that the sugar then can be used and utilized throughout your body. So without that getting into the cells, your blood sugar goes up and then causes trouble with the kidneys and the eyes and the nerves and the heart. So there is no cure that I know of at this point. It is a disease that some will say if you live long enough, you will get it. On the other hand, there's some really nice changes that are medications that control things well and seem to be more sophisticated of the medicine works mainly when you eat rather than all the time, and you're always chasing your sugar like the older medicine. So sorry I don't have a cure, but yes, they are definitely getting better. And when you say you have well controlled or diet controlled, that is where we want to be, and we really want to work on weight, making sure you stay in the diet controlled, and sometimes we can even get you back to where at least on labs, you appear to be not diabetic anymore. And that has a lot to do with your ability to be involved with exercise and diet.
I want to thank the caller. And if we have any other questions, remember you can reach us at 736-0300. The number is 736-0300. It's coming up on 8:52:48 at our studios. Dr. Jonathan Tripp with us, Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine on Top Story this morning. And I believe we have another caller joining us. You're on the air with Dr. Tripp.
Yes, I was wondering if a person has had shingles like 3 times, will the vaccine help?
That's a great question. Let me just throw my background in on that, not just my medical school, but I had shingles at age 9, and I still consider it the worst pain of my life. Left me some nice scars around my belly. So when I went through med school, I was very keen on anything that had to do with shingles, herpes, or the chickenpox virus, all of which are related. The shingles vaccine, if you adhere strictly to what's called the Centers for Disease Control, or the CDC's guidelines. They say even if you've had it recently, get the vaccine if you're over, I'm trying to get the right age, but it's 60 or 65. Um, because this is something that they will, by revving up your immune system, if you get it, you will have a lesser case and hopefully less serious. And the bigger deal with shingles is you can get the pain that goes with shingles, and it can last your whole life even after the rash is long gone. And so a big part of our prevention on shingles is to try to avoid chronic pain associated with the disease. So the recommendation is, yeah, you should still get it, and the theory is it will still help because it keeps your antibodies high as you may be exposed to it, where other parts of your immune system may be waning, especially as we age.
Can I tell you something that has helped this time with these?
Sure.
Is some of those essential oils have been really helpful with the itching and the pain of the sores.
Excellent. What do you have specific ones?
A friend of mine did just the coconut carrier oil, and then melaleuca and thyme and lavender. 10 drops of each in a tablespoon of the carrier oil.
All of which I have absolutely no problem with. The essential oils have proper place, and there are some that are very beneficial. The only trouble I have with some is I'll have a patient that says if a little's good, more are better, and then they get themselves into trouble with irritation of the skin for mixing and matching a whole bunch. But I'm glad it's helped, because that is a troubled disease that there's no great answer. We have some medications that will get you out of it sooner and decrease its intensity, but anything that you can do that helps it along the way, I'd encourage.
I want to thank you for the call. And a friend of mine knew he had it, self-diagnosed. He went to see his doctor, and the doctor said, "Are you sure?" And he opened up his shirt, and the doctor says, "Yep, that's shingles."
Yeah.
But my friend said that he did not actually have any pain with it, which is rare because, as you point out, it can be very debilitating.
Yeah, I've had several patients that I have absolutely confirmed that that's what they have. I remember one lady, it was through the side of her scalp from her forehead back to the back of her head. And I kept asking, "Are you sure this doesn't hurt?" She says, "Not much. It mainly itches." And I thought, wow, she got the lucky version. But nevertheless, most people have a lot of pain with shingles.
And those of us who've had the chicken pox obviously are very susceptible to it as we age.
Yeah, it's a recurrence of the chickenpox virus, and it's usually a recurrence due to either physical or emotional stress, or recent exposure to somebody else that's had it, and often we don't even know that we've been exposed.
For people, by the way, who'd like to reach your office, and a lot of people hear you on the radio, and they may be new to the area, or they have, and sometimes their doctor retired or other offices closed, and you're looking for new patients, obviously. If they'd like to reach you, how do they go about doing that?
We are. We're looking for the entire family, little kids on up. I just had a new mom ask if she could bring her 5-week-old to our office. I said, absolutely, that's the best beginning for us. So, yeah, our office phone number is 933-4400, and that's probably the most direct way to get a hold of us. For sure, our website at trippfamilymedicine.com, and then on Facebook, you can see some features we put out there or make some comments, and then that's Facebook is Tripp Family Medicine as well.
By the way, when we were talking apnea earlier, we don't have a lot of time left, but when I was diagnosed with it, I was told that that can have an impact on your blood pressure as well as your weight. There were any number of things that, 4, 5, 6 different things that apnea could be a party to. And I was told once you actually put the CPAP on, it will help with weight loss. It will help with any number of things, reduction in blood pressure. All of those things came because of that.
Those are absolutely true. In fact, a lot of times we think the weight loss is because now you have a little bit of energy to have some motivation, but that is true. I've had just straight sleep deprivation due to my career, and I will tell you that weight gain is a lot easier when you don't have good sleep. And if you have sleep apnea, you never have good sleep. So it changes the dynamics of weight. It changes the dynamics of how your circulation, even your nervous system. If anybody's stayed up all night, you just notice how things feel different on your skin. When you talk about frayed nerves, it's real. and sleep deprivation will do that. So
that's called residency in your business.
it is called residency. Yeah.
After about 48 hours, it starts to wear on you just a little bit. And before we wrap up, quickly, the website and the Facebook page again.
Website is trippfamilymedicine.com. Facebook, Tripp Family Medicine, and our phone number is 933-4400.
Want to thank Dr. Jonathan Tripp for coming by. We have Mayor Don Hall from Twin Falls coming up following news at 9 o'clock. That'll be from the Fox Radio Network. He'll be willing to take some of your comments and questions, too, as well, while he's in the studio with us. You're listening to Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Right now, 8:59:48 at our studios.